Good afternoon to you. I have a little gift for you today, and it's a little bit of self-coaching that you can do for yourself in a way that gives you hopefully something that will spur you on to end off the year beautifully and start the new year off even better. I'm going to share with you the Wheel of Life and how to use it. It's got 8 segments to it if you haven't already done one of these. And let's start off with each of them, because in our life, we have life that happens. And sometimes we don't realize it's out of balance until a crisis hits us. So having a life that is more fulfilling, a little bit more in balance and enriched, we feel often at a very deep level much more nourished. And instead of externalizing a requirement that somebody else or our jobs or something outside of us will give us this, when we look inside of ourselves, we find a whole different ballgame. And then we find a different level of accountability and the absolute beauty of our soul within. So let's look at these 8 categories. And you'll notice on your sheet that you'll have that they are numbered 1 to 10. Now, there's no wrong. The only wrong is not participating, because this is all about you. There's nobody looking over your shoulder saying what you should and shouldn't do. In working with clients, this has probably been one of the easiest and most enlightening areas to cover with them. It's one of the things I do usually in a first session. So we look at the areas, the 8 areas. We look at health. We look at contribution, which is often a socioeconomic impact around us. We look at relationships. We look at recreation. We look at spirituality or religion. It depends on how you reframe that for yourselves. We look at career, and we look at finance and personal growth. So those are the main areas that most of us can divide our lives up into. And if we look at each of them, and because we are usually our own worst enemy, look at a scale from 1 to 10. Where are you currently on that from a level of satisfaction? 1 being you just touching on it, 10 being absolute, I'm there, this is what I want. Now, if you decide you choose you only want a 5 for each of them, or 5 for this and a 3 for that and a 10 for that, that's entirely up to you. It depends on your life and the stage you're at currently. No pressure. So let's look at first our health, because I think post-pandemic, that is probably the foremost on everybody's mind. And we are so grateful for health in any form that we can have it. Good health is like the most important thing to us as a human being. Good health in every part of our life is beautiful. So let's look at your health. Where is your health currently? On a scale of 1 to 10, is there room for improvement? Is it out of your control? What would you like it to be? That's the kind of thing you want to look at when you're asking yourself these questions and measuring yourself. So my suggestion is, when you print this out for yourself, or you work with it on your screen, however you choose to work with it, do it in pencil in a way that you can erase it and revisit this once a week in the beginning until you get to the point of where you're feeling you're more in flow and more control. Part of the Wheel of Life is part of the energy that we go into when we think about our Kundalini rising. And our Kundalini rising is where we energize each of the energy centers in our body going up the spine. And there's different ways, each energy center means something different. And that all impacts our balance. So when our energy centers are out of balance, aka also relating to our health, then our Wheel of Life, if it was a beautiful wheel, because a wheel turns perfectly. Whoever invented the wheel, I bet you they didn't know they'd be so famous or have such an invaluable addition to our world that we cannot live without, and they're the point of evolution. So using health as the example, as we just did, is where are you now? There's only one rule, by the way, with all of this, is absolute honesty to self. So don't ask your neighbor or your husband or your wife or a friend where they think your health is, because you're going to get their view and their perception based on how they know you. But this is about your balance. This is about you. So you want to look at it from your own perspective. How can I be absolutely honest with myself and look at my health? Am I eating what I would like to eat? Am I just coping? Am I managing with whatever I'm putting? Is my tummy absorbing it? Am I managing with whatever I'm putting in? Am I putting stuff in that gives me an adverse effect? And how do you know if you have an adverse effect with your health and what you're eating, by the way? Usually your sinuses are the first telling point, or your tummy, upset tummy of one form or another, from one extreme to the other. But just be aware of if you're eating or drinking something that has an adverse effect on your body. Those are the two areas that usually show up quite quickly. So your health is, without your health, you have no wealth. We know this, and it's easier said than done. But if you could do one tiny small thing a day, would you? What would that be? So I hope you've been making notes. Let's move on to the next one, contribute. How do you contribute to the world around you? Do you have a SEVA project? A SEVA project is a community project that you participate in. It could be that you sit with friends who need to blow off steam. Do you make time for that? Do you contribute in that way? Do you do anything for charity? How do you contribute in a way where it is purely the generosity of your heart and it's unconditional giving? Because the reward in that is priceless. There's no expectation except the fact that you know you're going to do something good. So currently, where and how are you contributing on a scale of 1 to 10? And what would you like it to be instead? What is the 1 or 2 things that you could do to start that off? And start doing a little bit more of it. Even if it's once a month, once a quarter, or if it's once a day, whatever it is. How do you contribute to the people and add value around you? Life. What is your contribution? And what would you like it to be? Then we're going to look at relationships. If you look at the relationships around you, and you can divide them up between close relationships, work relationships. It can be a relationship that you have with your greengrocer when you go once a week. It can be where you go and put fuel in your car. How are your relationships happening at the moment? Could there be an improvement there for yourself? How would you like them to be? What's most important in this whole process is you always decide what you want instead of what you've got now. So when you're looking at relationships, which relationships could you change? Which relationships could you make a little bit more, add a little bit more value to? Where do you feel there's an imbalance in a relationship? Where are the relationships that you have tea with, that you watch rugby with, that you do nature walks with, that you belong to a book club with? Each relationship in your life is different. And it's okay to have different relationships. And when you look at your wheel of life, are they in balance? Are your relationships in balance? Do you find you're spending too much of your energy outwardly? Are you not giving enough to the relationship with yourself? Are you spending more in one sector of relationships than another? Are your work relationships getting more than your home relationships? What do you want it to be? Yep. Not an easy one to deal with, but if you start one little thing every day, you can make that change. One little thing, one little change that you can do. And then recreation. What are you doing for fun? And fun could also be exercise. Because to many of us like myself, dancing is exercise for me, and I dance. I love to dance. And if I entertain myself, I don't have to have an audience of 1,000 people anymore. I can just dance for myself and dance for all the angels that are watching. But it's important for me to balance my energy in all the energy centers in my body. And one of the ways that works for me is movement, because embodying all the energy centers and in awakening them and enlivening them takes up different forms for everybody. So ask yourself, what is your recreation scale? Do you spend all day at the office and come home and do evening work? Or are you giving yourself a better balance? So what is it for you? And what would you like it to be? You might be someone who juggles. And if you're in the office and you're making tea or coffee and you know you haven't got time, you could stand and try and juggle while you're waiting for the kettle to boil or the tea to draw. One tiny thing every day that you can do to bring better balance into your life. Because when we bring more balance into our life, remember this, our energy centers have a better chance of aligning and improved lifestyle. Then we look at spirituality. What does spirituality mean for you? Now, spirituality could be religion. It could be your way of looking at life. It also usually includes your values and beliefs. And don't forget, your values and beliefs underpin everything that you do. So if you believe that you're only worthy of 5 Rand earning $5 an hour, if that's what your belief is, that's all your whole world is going to be about. You're never going to think beyond that. But how do you shift your beliefs and your thinking and your values in a way that gives you more fullness in your life? So when you think about spirituality, you might want to include your values and beliefs in this section. If you like going to church, are you going enough? Are you spending enough time with the right people? Are you exploring your spirituality? Are you doing more courses? Are you doing a little bit more with Professor Google or YouTube to find out what things that you're always interested in that open your mind? Anything that opens your mind also changes the energy centers in our body. Remember that. But it starts with something like this, your wheel of life, is having a good, long, hard look at it, serious, honest look to decide that. So spirituality is different for everybody. Again, you ask yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, where am I currently and where would I like to go? And it's always a good idea in all of these arenas to try and put a date by when you're going to do it without putting yourself under pressure. But just to give yourself a bit of a timeline, because you become your own parent when you take charge of your wheel of life. Yeah, becoming your own parent. Your career. If you're spending most of your life at the office or doing a job, whatever it is work-wise, and you're not having any balance in the other, your career might need a revisit. What would need to change with that? Or if you're doing the bare minimum as an extreme, opposite extremes, what could you do to change that? Are you doing the career that fulfills your heart? Are you doing something that nourishes you, that makes you feel when you put your head down on your pillow at night that, wow, I did good today, I did enough today? Or am I so exhausted I can't even say thanks for the day and grateful to my body for getting me through that? Or am I going to bed thinking, oh, I forgot to do this, I didn't do this, and maybe I shouldn't have watched that extra movie, maybe I should have done. If you're always in your mind, you're not in your body, ask yourself from your career perspective, how much pressure are you putting yourself under when you put your head down on your pillow at night? What would need to change? How could I upskill? How could I change direction gently? How could I possibly mentor somebody else? Whatever your purpose aligns, remember, you choose. You choose a career. What else could you do to make some changes there? And finance. Well, finance for most of the world is probably in a minus situation. And that's a reality most of us live with today. It is what it is. It's taking the world a long time to recover. And because the whole world has changed in so many ways, finding new ways to create financial income for yourself and financial planning longer term as to, if you ever wanted to retire, could you retire? So finances, how am I spending my money that I do have? Or how can I do something different to create more? Personally, I combine a little bit of recreation and health and personal growth with my finance. So when I look at doing something financially, I always look at all of those and how it impacts me. And most importantly, I look at financial, how does my health affect by it? Because I went through a burnout, so there's no ways I'm going to work day and night, because I won't live to see the end of the year if I did that again. So we want to look at our finance and be reasonable. If your goal is to start saving, let that segment, that slice of the pie, let that segment be about savings. Where are you now? What could you do? Is it 50 Rand a month? Is it 50 Rand a week? Is it $50? Euros? Whatever it may be for you, you decide. But you want to look at your financial situation and look at finances and maybe start thinking differently about them. Maybe you think you don't deserve much more, or you think this is all you're ever going to have. There's always, if you look at your other power segments, there's always another way to look at your finances. And then personal growth. Well, you get 10 out of 10 because you're watching this, and hopefully you are doing this. You want to revisit this. Personal growth means taking charge of your life, taking accountability for your life. Whether it's doing a course about energy centers, learning to become a Reiki practitioner, doing an upskilling on learning how to be a tutor, or taking up a university course, it doesn't matter. Personal growth means that you're not just staying in your stuck state. And very often our first energy center is about the areas where we're stuck. And that becomes relevant when you do the training on it. You learn a little bit more about that. So in personal growth, are you where you want to be in life? Because if you're not, there's a good chance that this is the biggest segment that you would want to implode inward, not explode outward, implode inward. Ask yourself, go inside and say, what is it I really want to do? What else could I do to grow myself so that I feel my aura and everything, my energy field expands in a way that I can add more value, contribution, change my relationships, add value wherever I'm in. And it's more importantly, most especially so, how do I add value to my own life? And that's usually the personal growth. So personal growth could be influenced by your health, your recreation, how you exercise. Do you exercise? Don't you exercise? Personal growth and health is two very unique combinations to look at. Because you will feel healthier if you're doing things that make you feel more positive and feel like you're in control of your life. Versus life happening means you can step into and say, okay, so if you may be in an accounting or something like that, I'm always getting tax inquiries and I'm not a tax practitioner. Maybe I should have a look at doing some webinars on that. So these things, the way that you can look at life gives you the messages all the time. And when you look at your wheel of life, ask yourself, if I want to be 5 out of 5 for each of them, what would bring them into balance? So the first thing, in summary, is when you're looking at your wheel of life, measure where you are now. Put a little dot on this chart. Put a little dot there, or there, or there. It doesn't matter where it goes. Just be honest with yourself. Where is it now? And join the dots. And then ask yourself, where do I want each of these to go? And what could I do to change each of them? Check in. Let me know how you're doing. Ask any questions. You're very welcome. And I hope you've enjoyed this tiny little lesson for you on how to use your wheel of life. I'll post it at the same time, the diagram, and you can use it. If you go online to Professor Google, you will find many different versions of it. Choose whichever one works for you. Use colors, be creative, put pictures, put icons, but your wheel of life is now you. So your life, your accountability to self, how do you encapsulate all of you in a way that shifts your energy and grows your consciousness to live in our planet and be the best version of you that is fully nourished from within? Reach out if you'd like to talk about it. Happy to help. Don't forget, connect on myhiddengenius.org or emotionemotion.co.za. Love to be of service and love to hear how you're doing on your wheel of life.